Wednesday, April 30th, market analysis, Standard. Good morning. We start out with stock market indexes, go to futures and a few stocks, Apple, Tesla, and Shell. So the E-mini and the other indexes have dropped sharply earlier this morning, dropping below the lows of the last 3 or 4 or even 5 previous trading days, below the lows. For the E-mini, it made a new low today for the last 3 days, has come back up to approximately the lowest close for the previous 3 days, and is sitting here and now starting to drop a little bit, down 5 points, was down 6 a moment ago. And I'm saying 5 is 50 and 6 is 60. I'm used to the SPY numbers. So coming back up now to resistance, and I think it's about to turn back down again. I don't know if we're going to make a new low for the day. It wouldn't surprise me. That was close to 10 lower, or in the ballpark of, quite a bit lower. And if it closes way down there, you'll have a new low close for 1, 2, 3, 4 previous days. So it'll be the new low close for the last 5 days. If we go back below about 5,500, and again, that's not too far away. I think it's quite possible, and I'm kind of expecting that. It may not be today, maybe tomorrow, but soon. So my concept in the last week or so of coming up to a resistance area, stopping and starting to work lower, the part about starting to work lower started today. Resistance did stop it. Little exceptions here and there, slight variations on the basic rules, but it seems to have worked. We're now in the process of bouncing back to resistance, and let's look at the short-term charts. Today I've got 10-minute charts because I want to look back a larger number of days than just about 2 or 3 on my typical 1-minute chart. So now we can see that it broke the lows going back to here. And that's 1 day back, 2 days back, 3 days back. So if we get 4 days back, we'll have to go all the way down to 53.53. And that'll be another day earlier than that. I doubt we're going to see that today. It looks like 20 a lower or something like that. But that's kind of doubtful. There is a small gap to close. Let's go back. That's way down here on the daily data chart in the area of 53.50. A little up above, a little bit below, but around there. I think we're going to go there, as I've said. We got halfway there already this morning and a bounce already. We'll see what happens. Let's see. My SPY is basically the same story. I see I didn't put my little marker in for the gap and the spider. And there we have it. So that's the area I'm looking for to begin with. I'm not expecting it to hold. I think we're going to go there, 529-ish, 530, let's call it, on the SPY, but I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to go even lower. Let's look at the big picture. We had this big resistance area that had a triple top here in the SPY. It's either a double or a triple on the different indexes, but it's a top. When you break below on a closing basis, the lowest lows between all of the highs, 2 or 3, that's the downside breakout. That came true weeks ago and went a lot lower than the minimum downside objective on the double or triple tops. Came back up again just the last week or so to that area, resistance, and then in this case on the SPY, it got a little bit above what I thought is the resistance area. And this is all a matter of judgment on analysts' part. Everybody has a slightly different take on everything in this business. So these are all obviously my opinion. And it came up a little bit above my resistance, but it fell back today substantially. And I think we're in the process of rolling over and starting to come back down. This is the 30-minute chart, 10-minute, sorry, on the SPY, going back a substantial amount of time. And all of this price range is basically resistance. I'll do it for you real quick. And I'm starting, that's good. And that's good. Yeah, I got 90% of it. So poke into it, back off. Poke into it a little bit stronger yesterday, back off. A lot today. Up to it again, and starting, I think, to back off again. This time, lower than today's lows so far, and coming down to close the gap in that area. Next chart, QQQ, up to resistance. None of these got overbought, so that's lacking. But I would have loved it if they also had gotten overbought, but they didn't. Nevertheless, big rally up to resistance areas, and today makes me feel very good about my ideas for the last week. New lows for several days. In this case, just 3 more on the QQQ. New low for the last 3 days. But there's a gap to close. So that's my first objective, 447, and I think we're going a lot lower than that. Next, and I don't want to turn you into a bear market thinker. I don't think we're in a long-term bear market at this point. QQQ. Gap down this morning, came back up, closed the gap, and looks like it's starting to roll over again. This again is a 10-minute every bar, 10 minutes chart. Next, we've got the NASDAQ daily data. We're stopping at the lowest close for the previous 3 days. That's about the best I can say about that. And no gaps to close, not overbought. All it did was come up and touch the top of my resistance area that I've had in here for weeks, if not longer than that. And I think it's on the way down, all of them. Next, we've got the 10-minute chart on the NASDAQ. It came up a little bit higher than I would have thought, but not anything that I can talk bullish at the moment. YM started out around, but not quite new high ground. It would have been nice if we had bearish engulfings, but we don't have any of those either. It just started to go down sharply. Came back up pretty good, but not good enough. Back to resistance in this case. Tried to get through the resistance the last week, couldn't do it. This is the last day of April. Tomorrow is May. So that month will be behind us after today. Looking for lower levels. What can I say? Starting to work. My commentary for the last week approximately. Throughout this slow up move, once we got up to about here, what was that on? That was on the 23rd, April 23rd. Even 22nd, I started talking about that, I'm sure. And it didn't go much higher, a little bit, into resistance, and then boom, all of a sudden, we have made lows equal to the lowest lows for the last 3 days on the YM. And a bit of a bounce. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we do get above yesterday's high and stay above yesterday's high, then I'm going to have to shut the heck up about being bearish and talk about one more up move, which won't change my long-term bearish expectations. It'll just be what I'm expecting to be the last little leg up, which I think we've already had happen. And now we're already on the way down. So I do expect things to fail and start to make new lows very soon. Next, Russell, pretty much the same as the Dow, YM. Not really much different commentary. Didn't quite get up to resistance. Not overbought. Just simply turned down sharply. Has a small gap to close. Okay. 10-minute chart on the Russell. Yep. I think it might stop and turn down. Let's go to bonds. Bonds have a new high smack dab against my resistance area that I have had in here for a long time. Stopped cold turkey. Came back down to a little bit lower on the day at the moment. So bonds don't like the new news, whatever it was. Probably referring to tariffs. I try not to mention fundamental stuff at all, because I'm a technical analyst, obviously, not a fundamentalist. Oops, fundamentalist, sorry. And Looks like we could have another little bit of a dip. Are we getting stuck between a rock and a hard spot here? I wouldn't be really surprised. Now, the big picture, remember, is still this giant double bottom going back a year and a half to October of 23 for a bullish engulfing ER buy signal at the exact low day in advance, the day it happened before that huge rally. Also, we got the exact low day on January 14th of this year before a very big rally. Now, I wish I could say the same thing about early April. We didn't get a bullish engulfing, therefore no green bar, but I did get oversold, and we did test a bull trend line that I talked about at the time a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know. Maybe we could get stuck a little sideways here for a short period. If not, then I vote for up. I don't think we're going to have much of a dip. I don't think any kind of a dip is going to go too far, and I don't think it's going to last very long if we do have a dip in the first place. Same thing for notes, except notes have a much better looking broad double bottom formation going back to another bullish engulfing ER buy signal on October 23 of 23 to the exact day, the bottom of the market. Now, unfortunately, in January 13th, it wasn't a bullish engulfing, or the 14th this year, like bonds had, but we did get a preliminary, slightly profitable buy signal for a few days, slightly before that. But this double bottom is almost at exactly the same lows in price over a year and a half time frame. Very good. Ran all the way up, had a bearish engulfing on the high of the rally, dropped off quite a bit, got what I wanted. Now it's on its way up. I think it's going to have the same kind of activity as bonds, with maybe a tinge of holding better. So if you like spreads, long note, short bonds. I am not a big fan of spreads lately, but I used to do a lot of them in the 1970s in particular. Great margin, but very slow results usually. Next, crude oil. Down sharply again today, breaking out of the resistance area that it got caught in with two bearish engulfings. Now, if either one of those had been overbought, we would have a red signal, but they weren't. So all I had to go on was the resistance area on the bearish activity price-wise, bearish engulfing, and it worked. We're now 2 days, very sharply lower, a new low ground. I think we're going to challenge the lows of the move at 54.50-ish and make new lows. Bigger picture, well, that would be a major support area historically. So we might not go too much below there. And we are getting close to oversold already. So yeah, go down, test, and bounce off of it. Heating oil. Bullish engulfing at the bottom also. Another extra. Both worked okay. Not great, but okay. Resistance stopped it. 2 sharp down days. I think I have to say the same thing on a longer term basis. Yep, absolutely the same thing. Good historical support. Closer to oversold. If we get down there, and I mean 19, 187, 186, something like that, quickly in the next couple of days, we'll probably be oversold and then deserve a good bounce off historical support. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was only at 1.93, but maybe it could get all the way down to 1.87. Next, natural gas. As you know, we had the head and shoulder top. It did work. We went to the downside objective, made it there on April 21st, went a little bit farther for a few days. Oversold conditions caused a bounce. We had a small bounce. Is it over? I'm not sure. Didn't come back up to anything particularly interesting, and today's only 1 day down after getting out of oversold and a fairly good oversold condition at that 17. I think we could bounce some more, but I'm not trusting the strength. I don't see anything super bullish about this. Only maybe a little bit more of a bounce, possibly up to 3.8. Nothing's catching my eye here. Not coming up with anything great momentarily for natural gas. Sell signal a couple of days ago in gold. We've never now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week made any higher highs than the high of the bearish engulfing. Signal is starting to work better. We made a minor new low, but not below the low of the signal day, April 25th, the red bearish engulfing. That's what I really want. And we're almost there at today's lows, but it's come back pretty good. I think we're about to make new lows, close below 32.75, 74, and drop sharply for a day or two, looking for lower levels. Probably a minimum 3,200. And I'm not ruling out approximately 29.90, give or take 10, 20. Next, silver. New lows for a few days, but it's holding at the moment at the bottom of the support resistance area. It got up to the top and through the top for a couple of days on a close, but all of a sudden last week dropped back into the same range, and now we tested the bottom of the range and then came back to the middle already today. Pretty quick movements. I'm looking for lower lows. Big feature here, longer term, double top. We already tested long-term support. I think we could come down at least to 31, and it wouldn't surprise me to drop off even lower than that. 30, 35. This probably should be raised up to here. I don't know. One of those two. Probably should be raised up to there. And a one or two support levels even below what I just mentioned, 30, 35. That's where I'm heading. Next, platinum. Simply turned down. Never got overbought. No reversals, no engulfings, bearish, nothing. Just simply turned down. Not sure about this. I don't have a lot to go on. Bigger picture. Top of the market, of course, I got a red bearish on top, naturally. And one there also, naturally. But this one was a little premature, but it worked for a day or two. It wasn't that it didn't make any money. That's not true. It's just that it didn't have much downside follow-through, which is what I love, like that and that. And for the green ones, up like that and that. So is it over? Well, maybe. I didn't have much to go on here. It's a very wide range of no man's land. A lot of trading activity for a long time. Back and forth here. Big rock, big hard spot, very wide. I suppose we could dip off a little bit more, but I'm not going to go into too much at the moment of platinum. Skip. Boy, oh boy, big down day in copper. Huge. I wonder what happened. Probably has something to do with the T word. So anyway, a new low for like a couple of weeks. After yesterday testing the highs for weeks, that's a big swing, usually. It wasn't like it was going sideways for weeks. It was big up move. So, what now? Major damage is done. I'm looking for a test of the range down to here, 4.17-ish, 4.12-ish. I think we've come down too much too fast at this point, and we're going to bounce or be confined above today's low and well below today's high for maybe a couple, 3-4 days, and then start to make new lows. I could do it right away, but it looked like it spent all its weakness real quick all of a sudden, and it's going to go probably kind of sideways, a little back and forth, and then make new lows. That's what happens often after these surprisingly huge down days like this. Next chart. Soybeans, oil, meal, corn, wheat. Now, the dip is okay, and it's not too far so far. I can suffer through a little bit of a dip down to, I don't know, 10.25 looks adequate or acceptable. But I really don't want to get down as low as 10.08. And if I start to get below 10.01 or 10,000, I'm at 1,000. I got trouble. So that's my ultimate downside, 1,000. But I'm not expecting it to be even close to that. RSI is not giving us any help. It's nowhere near oversold, which I would love, but it's not. I just think it's going to turn up all of a sudden and start to head north. And I'll try to talk about it on the day that it happens and see if I can justify it. But right now, we're testing the lows of the last couple of weeks. Minor support, good. And it could even be now, could even be today. I'm bullish intermediate to long term, a little ambiguous for the next few days. And because of the possible broad head and shoulder bottom, we've got a neckline at 11,067 or something with a whopping long-term upside objective of about 1240. Soybean oil actually tested its neckline a couple of days ago, looks like last week. Dropped off to some support yesterday very accurately, but it dropped a little bit below the support this morning. Not that big a deal. I can justify and accept maybe a move down to 47.80, a little tiny bit of support going back a few days. It looks interesting going back a few months. Not good, not bad. But the whole point here is there's a lot of support in general underneath prices, and I would accept a little bit more of a dip. I'm going to get very worried if we get below 44.30. I do not expect that. So anytime here, unfortunately, in this fairly wide area, I expect to get a bullish engulfing. I expect to start to see higher highs than previous 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever days. And then I'll claim that the low has happened and we're going to come up to the neckline. The upside objective, again, is about 62.62. I've been saying, I think I coined the number 6262. Long term. Next, soybean meal. Did start to make a little tiny bit of upside progress. Not anything special. I can't be optimistic yet. All I can say is today we have a higher low and a higher high for the last few days. I really need to get up above 310 on a closing basis. Then I'll feel a lot more constructive about this terrible looking long-term bearish trend not stopping soybean meal chart. I'm looking for lower lows after a short rally. If it starts to close above 410, I completely change my mind to intermediate to long-term bullish. But until then, a little rally is acceptable, and I'll be looking for short sale opportunities at about 306. Yeah, up to about 310. Next, corn. Head and shoulder bottom starting with a bullish engulfing ER buy signal on February 26th. Then we had a small head and shoulder bottom from July through October, actually medium size, with a bullish engulfing ER buy signal on the last shoulder low. Perfect. Up you went. Breakout, upside objective fulfilled, a little bit more move to the upside. Great, kind of like the downside in natural gas, I believe it was. So a little bit further, stopped, came down, made a double bottom, bullish buy signal in the second low. I said so at the time. If you were listening to my recordings, you would have heard it, and the commentary, etc. No way I remember exactly what I said, but I wouldn't pass that up, that's for sure. If it happened after the YouTube recording, then I talk about it the next day. I can't help it. That's the way it is. Now, this formation is still good. I'm expecting a turnaround and a new high for the move above $5 soon. Maybe it'll take a week or two. Then a test of the neckline at around 524. And if that gets broken with a long-term head and shoulder bottom breakout, we'll have a 640 approximate upside objective. Whopper. I love what I see here so far, long term. And the fact that today we have a new low and a higher high at the moment, substantially so, looks pretty good. Maybe today is a low. I can't tell yet. I don't know for sure. But this is kind of what I would be looking for to start with. Now, we actually have real-time a bullish engulfing ER buy signal. It turned the price action green in wheat. Phew! Finally. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be the start of something very, very big, long term. And I emphasize that with an underline, italicized, bold-faced, fancy font, and a nice color emphasis. How can I do that with just one day worth of bullish engulfing oversold condition commentary? Here's how. This market's been coming down, first of all, since the war began incredibly, way back on March 8th of 22. All the way down to the low today. We have no significant upside breakout or bullish engulf pattern. But if you look at the rate of change on a long-term basis, you see the lows are now starting to get shallower and shallower and shallower, meaning, although it's making new lows, yes, it's by smaller and smaller and smaller amounts. So the rate of decline is slowing down. This is a whale starting to turn around. There's always a low day, whether it gives you any clue it's a low day or not. This is my clue that today could be, I have to say it when I have to say it, it's today, because if I say it a week or a month or 6 months from now, you won't believe that I said anything about today being important, unless you go back to this recording. So I'm crossing my fingers, eyeballs, and toes to see if I'm right, but I have to say it. I've seen this before. Now what I want is for obviously upside follow-through, no more new lows below today's lows. And granted, it's just barely, that doesn't matter. The low today is 523 and a quarter. Yesterday, the low was 523.75. 2 ticks, new low ground. So I need to see a rally immediately. No lower lows. If it goes sideways a little bit, I'll be nervous, but that's okay, as long as it doesn't make lower lows. Move up, quicker the better. Sharper the better. Faster the better. A close above 570 is going to make me very happy. Then, obviously, I've got to get above 588, and then above all of these other resistance levels on this long-term chart in order to justify, I said it on the low day commentary looking back. And if I am right, you know I'm going to say something about it. Okay, cattle. Bearish engulfing today. How about that? 2 charts in a row, 2 brand new signals, totally in the opposite direction. I can't help it. It's a higher high by a slight bit, maybe a tick or two. We're overbought. We did get slightly above our bullish resistance line. That would be the top of an upward slanting channel, or an upward slanting neckline could be considered a bearish resistance line. Not quite the same, but similar. And now it failed with a signal. This is it. I am now starting to get bearish, point blank, emphatically. I don't want to close above today's high. I'm out, or lower. Depends upon how fast my trailing stops are moving down, which is very quick. I can tell you right now that I got short ER1 scalp at about 209.50 today, this morning. And of course, if I'm still short because the strategy is holding on to the trade, and I'm not showing you the strategy, unfortunately, I can't do that. I don't have enough time with a 20 to 30 minute recording. So looking good, looking great, in fact. I'm looking for a move, at least down to 200, probably down to low 190s. The bearish engulfing 2 days ago on hogs at the high of the rally under somewhat similar circumstances is working already. It's been 2 days later, and look at this. We've made a new low for months. Wow. Thank you, hogs. What can I say? I'm expecting, and it's not oversold, I'm expecting the low of today to be broken on a closing basis and probably a test of the low 90s. Next, a sharp break today in Shell. No surprise. We're down about 5.5 now on the Spider, or 56 on the E-mini at the moment. We'll show you that in a moment. And Shell is down. There is a gap to close I've been talking about, 63.40. Once we get there, maybe we can turn back up again. Maybe. Gap to close on Apple, down to about 194. Starting to look at some weakness here. There's also a gap to close at 201. 201 and a half, I'll say. I'm expecting, obviously, the first one to get closed first. And I think the second one's not out of the question either. Next, a little resistance stopped the rally in Tesla. Backing up a day or two, along with the overall market, of course. No particular gap to close. Maybe there's a tiny one right there that I didn't see. It looks like there might be. The high on this day was 240, 279, and then the low the next day was 244. Okay, there's a very small gap here of $1 or so on Tesla. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. Close the gap. The support area should hold, and if it doesn't, then that's 213. Then we're looking at something a lot more serious. And I don't see it yet. Back to the E-mini. Back to the 10-minute charts. Changing to 1-minute data to get some detail. And it looks like we chewed away at some lows. Give it a couple more seconds here. There we go. And made a minor new low while I was yik-yakking a bounce. Maybe we're stopping right here, right now, literally. Looks like a reasonable spot. And then new lows again. You guys have a great day and profitable trading to you.